Elon is not a fan of the new big beautiful bill. What's going on, guys? It's Ricky with Talk About Solutions. Just wanted to provide you guys with a super quick market update. This has nothing to actually do with the stock itself. It just has to do more with policy. I've been doing my part in trying to keep you guys up to date with all the madness that's going on in the market. So there's a lot that I'm going to talk about. It's kind of all over the place. If you guys like these videos, they're more general updates on almost like everything news related that I could find that I find to be interesting and hopefully of value. If you guys like these videos, please just let me know down in the comment section and maybe consider dropping a thumbs up if you feel like we earned it. Or if you just want me to stick to one specific stock and breaking those videos down, I can do that as well. But I feel like in general, this tends to be more popular. So Elon Musk took to Twitter or to X and saying, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination." So he's talking about the big, beautiful bill, which on paper, supposedly within the next 5 to 10 years, is supposed to increase our deficit anywhere for around $4 to $5 trillion. We're currently, I think, a little bit south of $37 trillion. So this would put us well over $40 trillion in debt. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of cuts that are supposed to happen because of this bill. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But it does not outweigh all the additions to our deficit that, again, I thought this was the whole problem or issue that we were trying to avoid. We were headed down the wrong path is what I understood with overspending and mismanagement of funds. So what was the whole point of getting Doge to remove 150 or $200 billion if we're going to add 3, 4, or $5 trillion in the next 5 to 10 years? It's just counterproductive, right? It takes us down the same road that we should not be going, and that's adding to our deficit, not taking it away. So shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. So this is what it seems like, a very emotional post. And then there's a series of rants. You guys can feel free to look it up yourself. Obviously, the reason that this is so controversial is because Elon just left the White House, and some people are trying to get very political. Oh, Elon is just trying to save himself. Now that he left the White House, he's trying to do damage control. Dude, this guy is one of the wealthiest people in the world. You really think he cares what you think? No. Like, he donated 130 days of his life to Doge, right? I truly do believe that Elon had good intentions. No question, his company was hurt. Do I really think he cares what the average American thinks about him, or if he's trying to save his image? He doesn't care what you think of him, right? It's not about that. I truly do believe if you actually read the bill, he just probably doesn't agree with it. And that's fine. There's a lot of Republicans on paper that said they didn't agree with it, and they were trying to be convinced to actually vote on it, right? Because obviously no Democrat's going to vote for this thing to pass, but it has passed at least the House of Representatives, and now I think it's going towards Congress, if I'm not mistaken, and then it still has to get passed there. With that being said, it just adds a ton to our deficit. The whole point, and I think this is why it's triggering Elon, is the whole point of his 130-day investment into the DOGE was to save money, to remove wasteful spending. And this, in my opinion, probably just seems like a slap in the face for him. That's the way that I see it. It's just my opinion. You can feel free to share yours down in the comment section. Some people love to, trust me, Elon is very outspoken and he's very controversial. I get that. You just might not like the dude. But in my opinion, I truly do believe he is just not a fan of this bill for the sole reason it adds so much to our deficit. So, why is this such a big problem, right? The stock itself for Tesla and the retracement it had, almost the NASDAQ market didn't retrace nearly as much. The NASDAQ market was really strong, just like NVIDIA. But there's a handful of different companies that saw a larger retracement that were not holding as strong. I had an amazing short on HIMS, right? For those that are part of my LPP team, in today's live trading session, it got brought to my attention, and I shorted HIMS. I opened up my short then, and that's kind of where it all started. It was an overbought reversal. It's one of my favorite trading setups, and I opened up shares to short, and I made money as this thing sold off. I made a total of $12,146. My position is fully closed, and then I also shorted only one other stock, and that was TEM, and I made $2,200. I left myself with my one lucky share, and this comes a day after. I actually lost $3,400 yesterday on TEM, so I made a part of it back, right? I made $2,200, but I wasn't trying to revenge trade. I just saw an opportunity. It kept getting rejected at the same resistance. I shorted it at market open, but then it kept getting rejected right around $63. So I played the dip a few times, and that's it. I made $2,200 there, and then I made $12,000 on HIMS. So overall, a very successful day for myself, a little bit north of $14,000, a nice little recovery from my $3,400 loss yesterday, right? But overall markets are fine in the way that they are trading, but the big concern is this, and I can make a more detailed video about why this is becoming such a big issue. And it's because of what this deficit is. It's not what it's doing, but what it's continuing to do. And I think that's the biggest problem. So this was posted on x.com as well. And it says, as yields rise and send warning signs amid a weak bond auction demand, deficit spending is getting worse. So bond yields obviously are screaming and rising and showing signs of uncertainty, right? You guys have heard me talk about bond yields, the 10-year treasury, the 30-year treasury, all of these, right? They've all been increasing. The 10-year treasury is a benchmark for mortgages. That's why it's so expensive to take out a mortgage right now. That's why we're seeing a slowdown in the number of properties that are actually being purchased. Right now, we're at a record high. Nearly $700 billion in properties are currently sitting on the market. There is nearly 500,000 or something like that, 500,000 more sellers than there are buyers. There's a huge discrepancy because it's not that no one wants to. I'm sure there's pockets in the United States that are in very high demand areas. We have to be realistic, right? Those are probably still in very high demand. I would imagine like Los Angeles, California, New York, New York City. All of those are always going to be popular to some degree. But in general, the United States, there's a huge slowdown. And we're seeing this in Arizona and even in pop areas that maybe are not as popping, right? We're seeing a huge slowdown where properties are sitting on market just a little bit longer because, very simply, a 6.5% to 7.5% mortgage is simply not very attractive. Maybe it's a great time to negotiate. That's kind of the way that I'm looking at it right now, where if you ever wanted to lowball someone to make an offer and someone's really desperate to sell their house, now would be a time to lowball someone because you're not dealing with a lot of competition. You can ask for more seller concessions. Unless you're trying to buy one of my properties, then of course don't do that. But all jokes aside, I mean, it could be a good time to get in for a fair price. And then later, if rates do begin to drop, to then renegotiate, right? But objectively speaking, again, we are on an unsustainable fiscal path. And this is the big issue, right? Elon Musk is posting, Congress is making America bankrupt. And this is just because of how much we continue to add to our deficit. And then it kind of breaks it down in detail. The brutal reality, even with safety nets, budget cuts, the new spending bill, this is the big, beautiful bill, will add nearly $3 trillion of US debt over the next 10 years. So this is a net $3 trillion. Even after the budget cuts, because it adds about $5 trillion, but it's supposed to remove some of the waste, which again, Democrats are not a big fan of. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. I think I highlighted here where Bernie Sanders talks about, yes, this big, beautiful bill is a disgusting abomination. I'm not a big supporter of Bernie Sanders. I just wanted to share different perspectives, right? Different opinions from different points of view. I think it's important to hear people out. You don't need to agree with them. I don't agree with everything it is that this guy says by any means, right? But nonetheless, I think it's important to kind of they always like to highlight specific points. So that's why I like to share it. We shouldn't give $664 billion in tax breaks to the top 1%. Is supposedly what this bill does. We shouldn't throw 13.7 million people off of Medicaid. Of course, Democrats want to support that government aid for Medicaid. Republicans or conservatives are less willing to, right? So it does, to my understanding, cut and make it more difficult to be on Medicaid. We shouldn't cut $290 billion from programs to feed the hungry. Again, conservatives want to make it more difficult, and Democrats just are more willing to give. In my opinion, right, I kind of want to find a middle ground where I really don't it was just real. And again, it doesn't matter what I think. Yeah, let me not get into what I want. It doesn't matter what I want. But nonetheless, I think it's useful to understand different perspectives because you can get a better understanding of their why. Why would Bernie Sanders not want to cut 290 billion for programs to feed the hungry? Maybe he's just really in support of that. And I think that's great if we're in a position to do so. I just don't think at $37 trillion in debt, that America is in a position to be, offering all of this money. Nonetheless, again, that's for another time. But pretty much the whole point that I'm trying to highlight here is that we're headed down the wrong path. And this is, I think, what's really ticking Elon off, is that Elon is just, he has a big voice, right? He has a huge following. He has a huge online presence. So it's bringing a lot of attention to this. And I'm glad that it is because it's a conversation worth having. If you read the Big Beautiful Bill, there's specific parts about that Big Beautiful Bill that highlight how much money is being spent on border control, on, defense, and how much waste is also being cut through Medicaid and government subsidized programs. And then that's where you get to decide, do you agree or disagree with the bill, or does it need to be revised, right? If you factor in the incremental interest expense on the debt with rising rates, it will likely add close to $5 trillion by 2035. That is, again, by adding an additional $3 trillion, because as of right now, the US is paying $1 trillion of interest payments alone every single year on the $37 trillion nearly that they're borrowing. So if we continue to add an additional $3 trillion over the next 10 years, we're going to be actually adding $5 trillion, including those interest payments that are by adding just that additional three over the next 10 years. I hope that makes sense. So yes, we're adding a $3 trillion net, but over the span of 10 years, based off of the $3 trillion and the interest that we pay on those $3 trillion, it's going to actually make it closer to according to this, $5 trillion. To make things even worse, this forecast assumes no recession over the next 10 years, in which case, the incredible deficit could double expectation. When Elon Musk began working for Doge, his goal was to cut $1 trillion in federal spending by the end of 2025. Instead, we are now looking to run a 2025 deficit of $1.9 trillion, a 6.2% of GDP, just as new spending bill is passed. So far, Doge has cut $175 billion in government spending for the only for 17x of the amount to be added to the deficit over the next 10 years. So again, this is just to highlight why I believe Elon is so triggered. And it's because all this work was done for 130 days to remove a waste of 175 billion, which hopefully can snowball into the goal of $1 trillion every year, or hopefully by 2025. Because again, that in that sense, I mean, you can hate Elon all you want, but I'm sure if we can cut spending and we can save $1 trillion by the end of 2025, that's progress. And that's the biggest thing that I think I want to highlight is that, are we headed in the right direction? From the $37 trillion that we're in debt as of right now, are we working towards reducing that debt or just adding to it, right? It's like that friend that you just know that shouldn't have a credit card. They shouldn't be overspending. They're in no position to be overspending, yet they continue to leverage and say, we'll take care about it later. We'll take care of it later. We'll take care of it later. At the end of the day, it's eventually going to catch up to him. And this is what bond yields are telling us. Bond yields are uncertain. Elon is uncertain. And Elon is just mad because obviously now what is going to be added is 17 times what it is that he removed in the past 130 days. So just something to take into consideration. I can make a more detailed video about this kind of over the weekend if you guys would like me to. I will be flying out to Hawaii tomorrow morning. So you guys let me know down in the comment section. And if you guys would like me to hopefully break it down and make it a little bit easier to understand on what exactly is going on with this big, beautiful bill and how it's impacting markets, and how it plans to impact markets for the next 5 to 10 years, it's probably going to have to be a series of videos because there's a lot to talk about, not just with what is being added, but also with what is being taken away. But again, I love making these videos for you guys, as long as you guys enjoy watching them. And all I ask you to do is drop a thumbs up and subscribe. If you guys have have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And don't forget, again, I do trade live every single morning. If you ever want to tune on in, it's the second link in the description down below. Again, it's great. It's designed for beginners. And if you learn best by watching other people do, again, I trade live every morning. So if you want to learn more about it, just click that second link down below. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.